The United Democratic Movement was established in September 1997 by former ANC NEC member and Transkei Homeland leader Bantu Holomisa and former National Party leader Rolf Meyer. The party has been in the opposition benches for almost 27 years now, and with the upcoming elections, they are very, very ambitious and are confident that they can win the support of a sizable number of South Africa's 27.6 million eligible voters. We'll be speaking to the leader of the UDM right now, is joining us over the phone about going to the elections. How ready is the UDM? Their experiences in the opposition benches for the last 27 years, and also him raising his hand for that Eastern Cape, premiership. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation. I know Bantu Holomisa is joining us on the phone right now. Mr. Holomisa, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Salam Media. Very, very excited to be chatting to you this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to our listeners. But I have to register a protest.
Mm-hmm.
You said to me I will be having an interview at 8 o'clock. And then I've been holding since almost 10 to, what's the time now? It's almost after 20 minutes or so. Not on.
Apologies, Mr. Holomisa. No, apologies.
Taking us for a ride now. No.
Apologies. Really
Okay.
apologize. I think first and foremost, I'd like us to focus on the upcoming elections, just how ready the UDM is, preparations, and also some of your ambitions. I think it's been, we've been following your campaign all across South Africa, and it seems like there's a rejuvenation happening in the UDM, considering what many might consider a decline in the last 27 years in the opposition benches.
The United Democratic Movement have fulfilled all the IEC requirements. We are busy campaigning right now. We will be ready on the 29th May to participate in the elections of South Africa, thereby strengthening our democracy. We are also contesting in all provinces. We're paid for that through the IEC, as well as at national level. So what we are doing now is to encourage our party agents, train them and be vigilant. And we are currently busy also with door-to-door campaign. In terms of the question you raised earlier about myself being part of the Eastern Cape in this forthcoming elections, right now I'm at national list. If the dream or wishes of the Eastern Cape who have requested me to stand as a premier succeeds, obviously I would have to go to Eastern Cape. But for now, I'm campaigning for the UDM nationally.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of time in Eastern Cape. And I hope that the chiefs, traditional leaders, religious leaders, civil society who have been knocking in my office to say, please come back, come and rescue the province. There are problems. So I said, okay, let's discuss that. It was discussed by the party structures and they have agreed. But my going to the Eastern Cape, I'm not going to work alone.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to be the premier, I would introduce a government of provincial unit, like a similar scheme which Mandela and de Klerk had in 1994, that is government of national unit. In order for South Africa to be rebuilt, we need everybody to be represented in the government, especially those who have been mandated by the population of South Africa. One-party dominance has shown us that it breeds corruption. This arrogance of power is the one which is confusing in many spheres of South Africa's development. So that's us.
And I would like us to focus a bit on the Eastern Cape. I think it is one of your strongholds. It's a province that you know very very well, and the UDM is very active in that part of the world. Looking at the Eastern Cape right now, you were leader of the former Transkei, back in the day. Looking at it now, and comparing it to when you were at the helm as the homeland leader in that part of the world. What do you make of it now? What seems to be the problem in the Eastern Cape, that it's become one of the worst provinces to live in here in South Africa?
The situation is completely different from what we used to have in the Eastern Cape, in Transkei rather. There are those who think that we have regressed in a big way in a number of areas, like the education. Transkei was the fountain of education. We didn't have the luxury of mining of mines like gold, but our education was the fountain of our people. It has gone down drastically. The rest of South Africa during old days used to send their kids to Transkei to study, but right now, I'm sorry, if you look at the infrastructure, there's no maintenance of schools, a shortage of teachers, and then we are not even getting the luxury of the internet in that part of the world, because the government has been dragging its feet in rolling out the broadband to various villages and schools so that kids can have access to internet. So the other issue is, of course, the lack of maintenance of the infrastructure. That infrastructure which we used to enjoy is collapsing. The issue of crime is worse. I don't even want to talk about the unemployment. As you can see, that all the people who used to live in Transkei are flocking the big cities as we speak. So the situation is dire, and one thinks that the ANC government was naive in stopping a number of projects and schemes and closing down factories which used to employ thousands of people, closing down the maintenance units which used to maintain roads, deal with potholes on the spot, maintain government buildings, making sure that hospitals are in a healthy condition. All is not well there. It needs everybody to lend a shoulder.
No, very, very dire picture that you're painting there. I want us to focus a bit on, the UDM nationally, and how, you've seen the party's role kind of evolve over the years since 1999. I mean, it's not a secret that there's been a steady decline since 1999, when the UDM held 14 seats in the National Assembly. 2004 saw it fall to 9 seats, and then to 4 seats in 2009 and 2014. I'm sure with that, there has been trying to reconfigure the role that the UDM, is going to play in South Africa's political landscape. If you can maybe just elaborate to us a bit, because with those numbers shifting, obviously, you need to re-strategize and do things differently, and position yourself in a different way than you initially had thought. So if you can just share with us the role that you see the UDM playing now in the South African political landscape.
If you were to come from planet Mars and arrive in South Africa, You wouldn't think that UDM is represented by 2 seats in parliament. You would think that we're one of the major opposition parties with big numbers. I'm basing that on the fact that we have been betting on a wicket of anti-corruption. And I'll challenge anyone in this country who says we have not, because we have victims. As Zondo Commission has also vindicated our positions where we have been sending messages to say this country is on a slippery slope. Something has to be done. The government is misusing state funds. There are individuals which we have also exposed. I remember the first target where a victim of ours was the chairperson of the IEC, of the CEO of the IEC, then Ms. Pensi Chakula. We also led in terms of asking Parliament to allow secret ballot to be used when we are having a vote of no confidence in Parliament. We succeeded at the Apex Court. It was the UDM with their tweets which called for the inquiry to be instituted to investigate the PIC, where that institution was used by the powers that be as a piggy bank to fund comrades for their businesses using pensions monies, civil servants pensions monies. It is the UDM with their 2 seats again, which have led the challenge of the state to not to do load shedding in hospitals, in police stations and schools. Yes, it was the UDM with 2 seats again, which stopped the Takatso SAA deal by Pravin Gordhan. We stopped one. We sent an early alarm, and that thing has been cancelled as we speak. Yes, today we don't have a speaker in Parliament. That is the UDM. So keep your 260 MP members. They mean nothing to us. Two, I've just listed what we have done. Tell me, what have they done?
I think, the very, very, very elaborate point that you're making there. You mentioned and proposed the idea of opposition parties forming a pact to contest the elections. Could you elaborate on the benefits you see in such an alliance, and why the UDM chose not to be part of the multi-party charter?
Proposal we made some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. In fact, last year. But unfortunately, DA didn't want to work with other parties. And they started to say that they will not work with ANC, EFF, understand with ANC is in the government, EFF and so on, and they said they are going to visiting a moon. And then I said, all right, when you are back from the moon, you can call us. So, but we're not part of that because they still suffer from a big brother mentality, the way I see things. Because the proposal was that we must have a committee to discuss the possibility of establishing a pre-election coalition arrangement. So they chose certain friends, so we're not part of that. And he was very arrogant also to just go to his the DA to their conference and announce this trip to visit the moon, and without discussing it with everybody. So that's history now. United Democratic Movement, notwithstanding what they have done, it has no conditions as to who will we be partnering, not partnering with. we will depend on the results of the elections. We look at the parties, the party which has got more seats. We think that that would be the party which must be given an opportunity to invite people for discussions. But when it comes to issues of coalition, one has learned a lot in the local government. I'm not going to participate in the election in those talks if you are not going to accommodate the manifesto of my party. I represent a constituency, so we will have to integrate our manifesto. If we talk about corruption and say, never again shall we see a minister issuing political directives to an accounting officer to issue tenders to certain companies. Such an order is laced with corruption, and we won't be part of that. Secondly, that the accounting officers, that is DGs, they must run their departments. The ministers will be doing an oversight, but not usurping the powers of those DGs as accounting officers. Thirdly, we are not mincing our words when we are talking about the merit to be a guiding principle when whatever we'll be doing from now, because we are rebuilding South Africa after the comrades in corruption chose to appoint their own friends, and as a result, the state machinery has collapsed, including the SOEs.
I would like us to focus a bit on international affairs. I think the 2024 elections, I think for a very long time, have a lot of how political parties have responded to issues of international relations and what's happening abroad, particularly the issue of Palestine. I think it has become one of defining factors for the electorate on how political parties are responding to the genocide essentially that's happening in Gaza.
Okay, I hear you, Chief. I'm ready to answer your question.
Yes. So the UDM stance on Palestine.
The UDM's position is that we are a disciplined political party. We take a cue when it comes to foreign policy. We would like to give that space to a ruling party. We can't be seen to be competing internationally. If you go to, for instance, countries like USA, Britain, and so on, when it comes to issues of national interest, will rally behind the policy of the government. However, the government of South Africa has to review its position in the sense that when the foreign policy which everybody enjoyed and us respect was the one which didn't want to take sides in any conflict, rather bring the two warring factions together. I based this on what Madiba was preaching in this country. As far as the issue of Palestine is concerned, I'm not new in it. In 1993, I accompanied Mr. Mandela to UN to lift sanctions against South Africa. Whilst we were there, he introduced me to Arafat, who was the leader of PLO, and his team. And when Israel bombed Arafat's house and offices, it must have been around close to 200 to year 2000 or so. Very late. I was not in government anymore. Mandela was not in government also when they bombed that house and offices. He dispatched me to go and see Arafat. I went to Ramallah, and then Mr. Arafat, I met him with his cabinet there, and they said, please, Mr. Mandela must issue a statement condemning this. We know he's no longer in president of South Africa, but he still has authority. I went back and reported that to Madiba. But what I've noticed is that there are so many lobbyists for in the issue of Palestinians, and some I suspect that they are just in for money there. My position is that if Mandela was around, he would have said, I'm going to call PLO and the other fellows who are operating in Gaza and say, you belong to one blood. Why are you having tensions between you two? Do you think you'll be able to eliminate your enemy, which is Israel, if you are you don't speak the same language? So in other words, in order to solve the problem there, they need also to close ranks. Besides that, the international community has to understand that as long as the UN Security Council has not been transformed, where a country like USA undermines every resolution taken against Israel, that conflict will never end.
All right, I think we're going to leave it there, Mr. Holomisa. Thoroughly, enjoyed the conversation and getting insight on the UDM stance on various issues. We're going to leave it here for now. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
There you have it there, Bantu Holomisa of the UDM, just giving us insight on the UDM's readiness and preparedness and strategies for the upcoming 29th of May elections, and also giving us insight on their stance and approach when it comes to the issue of Palestine. A really interesting one. If we had a bit more time, would challenge it a bit, but unfortunately we've run out of time. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, as I mentioned in my intro, we'll be having that interview with Maram Samir, who's is currently escaping from Rafah to Khan Yunis, and give us insight on what the people of Gaza are going through during these very, very, very difficult times. So tune in after the break as we speak to Maram Samir, who spoke to us from Rafah and hopefully is currently making her way to Khan Yunis. More on this after this.